when you make claims like that on the internet, first of all, it never translates into real life, and then also it does a disservice for the real racists and the real homophobes and the real Islamophobes or whatever. But because those people are out there, and you're just wasting your time. Not if you want to engage with someone like that, you're wasting your time trying to engage with, say, me or Scotty, and when you could literally go find actual homophobes and Islamophobes or whatever phobe it is. It's always a phobe, like it's always a fear, which I think is also weird. Like just even the whole term, it feels like some sort of made up, I don't know, psyop or something.
From nothing, we have risen, and from nothing, we still rise. Take your life back. Fight.
Greetings, Legion. Welcome to episode 270 of Into the Necrosphere. My guest this week should require absolutely no introduction, but just in case, Jamie Jasta is the legendary frontman for Hatebreed. He's also the frontman for Icepick, very importantly, because that comes up in this conversation. He puts out music under Jasta. He also is the man who calls the shots behind Milwaukee Metalfest and Summer Slaughter. He has his own podcast. All of those topics were covered in a comprehensive conversation that took us just over an hour. Probably could have gone on for 3 had we had the time, but I cannot wait to share it with you. It's coming up in just a few minutes' time. Before we get to that, to get you guys all tuned up, to get your engines revved up for the episode that lies ahead, Anoxia out of Sydney, Australia, just put out their debut album, Revel in Sin, through our good friends at Gutter Prince Cabal. It is absolutely killer Australian brutal death metal. I think you guys are going to love it, and that is why, to get you warmed up this week, I am kicking you off with a track called Ruled by Cold Steel.
Of
Off their debut album, Revel in Sin, that was Anoxia out of Sydney, Australia. The song is Ruled by Cold Steel. It is available right now on Bandcamp, and as always, that Bandcamp link will be available to you in the description to the podcast. So head over there if you were converted by what you heard, and if you do buy yourself any music, then you let the Anoxia gentleman know who it was who sent you. Friends, you may be new to the podcast, and if that is the case, then it's worth me reminding you that I am a fully blooded member of the Horsemen of the Podcasting Apocalypse, a collective of content creators dedicated to crushing mediocrity from Monday to Sunday. On a Monday, we give you Horrible 666, hosted by the great Brandon Legion. Tuesdays, there's yours truly, de-wimpifying metal with extreme fucking prejudice on Into the Necrosphere. On a Wednesday, we give you the first double shot of the week. It starts with Everything Went Black, hosted by Mike Hill. We also give you Iblis Manifestations, hosted by Cheyenne. On a Thursday, Mike Hill returns, and he is flanked by friends, the outlaw Mike Scandado and the Professor Jeff Kashid. Together, they form the triumvirate known as Necromaniacs, one of my favorite podcasts of the week, and one that I absolutely never miss. And if that's not enough, you also get the first installment of Soul Knox, hosted by the sinister minister Carl Hikara every Thursday. He, of course, returns on a Sunday to wrap your week up, perfect for the Lord's Day. And that is the lineup as it stands right now, my friends. We also have a cast of characters who are regular guests and co-hosts on the shows, or on our respective shows. One of them is Matt Priso, and he joins me this week for the weekly news rant. He gave me an update on all of his bands, everything from Conspiracy X to SIK to Spells of Torment. We also listened to new tracks by Signs of the Swarm, Death Angel, Helheim, Horn, Thorn. We even gave the new Primus single a fair shake, though I suspect you guys probably can imagine what our reaction to it was. First up, though, sit back and enjoy as I welcome to Into the Necrosphere for the very first time, the great Jamey Jasta of Hatebreed. Eastpack Resistance 2002, you guys played, so actually Stamping Ground played, then you guys played, then Agnostic Front played, then Biohazard played. When Biohazard were playing, I counted at least 8 people being stretched out of the crowd. But you can just imagine, like, when four bands like that back to back to back, how fucking insane it got.
Yeah, that was a wild one. Hey, while I'm thinking about it, am I able to share this link with my Patreon? I see that. Yeah, I see their So is it this link? I don't want them to join as guests and then everybody's mics are on. But is there a different link for?
Well, we're not actually streaming. We're just recording.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so we're just recording. So I normally roll this up into, like, the way that the podcast is. It's like the podcast version of Metal Maniacs magazine. So I have like an interview portion. I've got the news rant where I basically listen to new music and just talk an incredible amount of shit. And then I'll normally do, like, I have some segments where I'm pushing some new bands and stuff like that. So, but yeah, this isn't streaming live. It's just recording.
Great. So they could just sit. They can just listen while it goes.
They should be able to, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I wonder if they'll be able to comment. Sometimes it works and they appreciate it. Sometimes it's a disaster. And
yeah. No, that's absolutely fine. Just say, share it. And again, we've got like carte blanche on who we can allow in and who we can't. So
okay, great.
If you see a guy, if you see a guy whose face is in there and he's jerking off, then clearly we're going to say
right.
Not sure that you're appropriate for this conversation, for the tone of this conversation.
I can tell them, keep your cameras off and your mics off, but I think StreamYard limits it to like a certain amount of people if it's not streaming, but I never know. Usually I have Katie ask beforehand because it's like just an added perk if people want to sit in live. I don't know where I'd be without my Patreon because they've been super helpful through the whole everything shutting down and then up to the festival, right? Because I had to obviously take over the festival and then follow through with it, which I really I got kind of forced into, but it's good problems to have.
So, I mean, you're a dude who, because I've been listening to Hatebreed for a long time, and I've been following you on the podcast for a very long time as well. But I know you're a guy that keeps a pretty tight schedule. Did you just decide at one point, like, I've got some time free between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. in the morning, let's take on Milwaukee Metalfest and make sure that I don't have to do any more of this fucking sleeping bullshit?
No, it was just a crazy idea I had on this episode that I did with Trevor Sternad, and I wanted him to curate it. I wanted him to be doing this stuff that I'm doing. But unfortunately, that ended how it ended. And then because that show was public and racked up like 80,000 something between YouTube and iTunes and Spotify, it racked up a crazy amount of listens and views. And then I was under the gun to do it and to make it right and to do it in his honor, and which I wanted to do, but I was also, it took a lot of pushing from the fans, and I appreciate it because between year 1 and year 2, I got to experience a bunch of those bands I probably wouldn't have experienced ever without Trevor, without his influence. So like last year, just getting to see Autopsy alone, that was like his number one that he wanted on the show. And there were others like Profanatica and Incantation and a bunch that I had seen before, but I haven't seen in decades. So it was like getting to relive a little bit of the youth, and then also getting to experience a bunch of stuff that maybe the die-hard elitist black metal and death metal and underground fans maybe didn't know they loved, but now they do, like Doro and Hammerfall and Eternal Champion. And so, yeah, we opened people's minds. It's the best weekend ever. It's so much fun. And yeah, our rest in peace, Trevor. His spirit lives on through it. I mean, I got teary eyed in the balcony watching Black Dahlia play without him, but I was just so happy that they went on and they're they're just pushing forward.
I've got a pretty, I don't know if I would call it a wild story about Trevor, but when I just started the podcast, which was 2019, there was just very shortly after the news broke that he passed, I posted something on Twitter just to say, really sad to hear that he passed away. And I was about to tag him when I noticed that he already follows the show, and he'd been following the show for a while. And I was like, holy fuck, like some, obscure, underground mostly death and black metal podcast. I mean, I listen to a lot of different stuff, but mostly death and black metal podcast hosted by a foul-mouthed South African living in the UK. Like I was genuinely stunned. I was like, why on earth would he even think to follow it? And then I spoke to people subsequently who knew him, and I mean, he really was as true, TRVE true as it gets.
Definitely. And talk about just a wealth of music knowledge and finding those hidden gems that we all love to find, those bands that even though they might not rise to the level of, say, like a Black Dahlia Murder or even bigger, like someone like a Lamb of God, they're still our headliner. Like I call them the people's headliner. And we have a lot of that at Milwaukee Metalfest, which is really cool. And that's the beauty of these festivals. Like the headliners bring the bodies in and make it work. But then in the middle of the bill, that meat, that chunk of the bill, the bands that Trevor loved, especially, they get to not only play with maybe a band they wouldn't normally get to play with, but then they gain that audience and hopefully compound that. Like we had a great story of this band Gates to Hell was playing, and Rob Flynn walked in and saw him and was like, holy shit, I got to take these guys on tour. And they literally got the tour like that. It was magic that happened there. And then there was another band that I love, this band Paleface Swiss. They played and they just absolutely tore the place apart. And I was watching from the balcony, and it was one of those, we can't believe that people at this festival love us this much. How did we not know this? How did we not know this town? They never even heard of that city. And now they went back on their headline tour and absolutely crushed it. So they created a new stop on their tour because of this festival. But these stories go back to the old days and to the OGs, like Opeth, In Flames, Enslaved famously got their set cut to like 10 minutes or less. It's like, that's not even like one song for this, some of their songs. Yeah. So this year they're getting a full, they're getting
like, we can play the intro to one of our songs and then we're done, guys.
Yeah. Pour in Flames, they went all that way. And so there's a lot of those infamous stories, good and bad, from the festival. And we're actually working on a documentary right now to talk about that. So I'm hoping to get a lot of these guys that are playing, a lot of these guys and girls that are playing, I'm hoping to get their stories on film at this year's festival. And then when I come over to Europe and the UK in June and August, we're going to be trying to get some footage then as well for the documentary. So I think if anybody wants to like kick in, I think we're going to start the Kickstarter and we're going to get that up probably in a week or two. Just because between the festival, the label, and I just took over. I've just started working with Summer Slaughter. The clickbait was like Jamie Jasta takes over or assumes, and now I'm believing the clickbait. I'm working with Ash and I'm working with Tim and Sound Talent on Summer Slaughter as well, which is happening in July. So it's a lot of stuff that's going on. It's a lot to take in, and if people are already tuning out, I don't blame them because it's
you're basically reading the schedule on your whiteboard up in front of you at the moment, the daily work grind.
Yeah, it's insane, but it's a good insane. And after this, there will be some calm before next year's storm as well.
Well, you point out something that I think is, I feel like when you think about metal as a bigger genre, like, with the sort of Metallica, Iron Maiden, Sabbath level bands. I was talking about this on my podcast last week, and there is a lack, in my view, at the moment of that passing down of the torch and the mentoring, and all those great stories of Ozzy takes Metallica out on tour in 1986, and Skid Row takes Pantera out on tour in 1992. There's not enough of that happening, and because there's not enough of that happening, I have real concerns about what. You have to question from a business perspective, like how are places like Download and like all the massive festivals, how are they going to continue to exist in their current iteration in 10 years time? Because in 10 years time, those bands I mentioned now, obviously Black Sabbath is a given, but I don't think Iron Maiden will be around. I'd be surprised if Metallica aren't at least already talking about retirement at that point. So it's cool what you say about, the passing down of the torch at on something like Milwaukee Metalfest, or in probably something that's closer to my world and your world, because at the higher levels it's just not happening. Like if I look at bands that even bands that Pantera are taking out, it's cool that they're taking out King Parrot, but King Parrot's never going to headline a Download.
Well, never say never. I'm sure people said that about System of a Down when they were getting booed at the Slayer shows. And I don't really know King Parrot. We don't have them on. I know some people on my Patreon have mentioned them, and I think I watched one video, but it's not the ones that we have on Milwaukee Metalfest are like Nest and Snafu. I know they're on Phil's label, but stranger things have happened. Especially if you look at, say, like a band like Bring Me the Horizon, who started out as kind of, and I don't mean this as a slag or anything, but I think they were kind of more
that's the clickbait coming from this episode.
Geez,
Jasta slams Bring Me the Horizon.
I hate to like self-edit because I really don't like to do it, but occasionally you have to. But I was going to just say they kind of started as a very similar type of band to, say, Suicide Silence. And at that point you probably would have said this band would never headline Download, but now they could.
Yeah, right. No, that's fair.
And yeah, that's with changing drastically to appeal to a wider audience, but more power to them. Like, I'm not one of those precious people about that stuff. Like, you should stick to one sound and that sound only for your entire career, for better or for worse. I'm not that guy, unless it's like, say, Slayer. But even then, go back and listen to Diabolus. I remember people just shitting on that, just mercilessly. I remember people, you know what I mean? So yeah, I remember people shitting even on Divine Intervention, which I love. And I go back and listen to it. I love what Bo Staff did on that record, but I remember some people being very, very put off by that. And then obviously there's the famous versions, the more famous examples of that where it didn't work, where bands took a big risk or a big stretch. But I think in regards to your question and your comments, I really commend the festivals and the promoters and the managers and the people that take big swings. And even if it involves a ton of online hate, like say Download got from, what was it when they announced, I don't know, Fall Out Boy or Avenged Sevenfold or one of those. I remember the people saying something to the effect of, well, they're not metal or they're not a headliner. There's always going to be something. But like Fall Out Boy probably has another 10, 15 years in the tank. Whereas like you're saying, Ozzy doesn't. And that's coming from Ozzy. That's not coming from me.
Yeah.
But also I think, did you mention Judas Priest or what were the other ones that you mentioned? I'm sorry.
So Metallica, Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, but you can throw Judas Priest in there as well. In 10 years time, Rob is 80, I think.
Right. And it would be great if Rob did end up like the Tony Bennett of metal.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. But yeah, you're right. It's going to take some risks, and it's going to take saying someone is a headliner. And we did it last year with Slaughter to Prevail on the Sunday, and believe it or not, they rose to the occasion. And anybody who was there knows we had a bigger crowd for Slaughter to Prevail, Avatar, In Flames, Lacuna Coil than we did for Lamb of God, Machine Head. So how does that make sense? It's kind of crazy in 2023 to have a bigger crowd in 2024 for a technically smaller headliner, but that's because they have to be given the shot. Once you're given the shot and you rise to the occasion, then the fans decide. The internet does not decide. The fans decide, unless of course it's something like fun, like Why Not Dying Fetus, which I loved when that was going on.
That was fucking brilliant. That was surreal and brilliant.
Yeah, that was just amazing. So something like that is fun. I think when it's fun, it can make a difference. When it's whining and victim mentality, listen, nobody's a victim because of a schedule or a booking or cancellation or anything like that. I know people disagree with that, and they want their victimhood, and they want to really cling to that, but we got to let go of that, guys.
I agree. Well, to me, that's actually similar to this sort of desperate craving for acceptance from the Grammys, the American Music Awards, and stuff like that. I always felt like, whether it's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, whether it's all the award shows, we aren't supposed to be part of that. That's not, it's nice if a band gets acknowledged, but honestly, do I give two shits whether any bands get acknowledged by any of those institutions? Absolutely not. I see a lot of magazines and, even musicians, will say, oh, it's unfair that this hasn't happened or that hasn't happened. And it's just, to me, it's completely irrelevant. I'm indifferent to it.
Well, it's almost like it could go the either way. It could go the other way with some fans. Like, and I remember being a kid, like I literally remember being a kid watching the news and the mainstream, like local ABC affiliate going, Judas Priest and other satanic bands on trial. What in your thinking? And this is obviously pre-Google, but you couldn't even call one member. Like you couldn't call the management. You couldn't call the record label. Do you think a mainstream major record label was going to sign some dark, evil, satanic? So even then I was like, the media is just, they don't even do any work. And I was just a kid going, how is this possible? So then when you would see other mainstream mentions of underground music, or you're always kind of weary of it, like, oh, I don't know if that was the precursor to industry plants. I'm sure there were industry plants then, and I'm sure there were people that had a foot like a step up above others because of connections or because of people putting stuff together. But like now it's called out right away, and sometimes not even justifiably. But also I think sometimes it could also be almost like I said, working in that other way. Like it was probably better for Metallica to lose to Jethro Tull. I always thought, was that a work? Like, is it better to lose to Jethro Tull and be remembered forever? Both of them be remembered forever because of that?
Well, arguably, would we have been talking more about it had they won versus talking about losing to Jethro Tull in 2025?
Right. So I think no, I don't think we would. I think it would have been long gone. It would have been just because we don't talk about anybody who won. Like we lost to Motorhead. Motorhead won for a Metallica cover. Do you ever hear anybody talk about that?
You didn't plan to storm the stage when that happened and rip the award from Lemmy's hands.
We knew going in. We had toured with them at that point. We had toured 5 years prior. You know, they took us out and showed us the ropes and really treated us great. Shout out to Mickey D. Shout out to Phil. It's, you know, we knew going in we were going to lose. But even now, like, who won this year? I don't even remember.
Not me neither.
Was it Spirit Box?
It might have been.
Okay.
There's not enough pentagrams in their logo for my tastes. Going back to Milwaukee Metalfest, so 2023 was year one. How nervous were you before like the weekend, like when it actually happened? Because I know you've been promoting shows for a long time. Actually, as a matter of fact, I didn't realize how far your roots went back in promotion until I spoke to Barney from Napalm Death once for an interview years ago. It was when you guested on one of their albums, and I was like, "How did you know Jamie?" And he's like, "Oh, well, he's been promoting shows for us since he was like in his teens." I was like, "Yeah, Jesus." So like, I would imagine it's not as daunting for you doing something like MMF as it is for, you know, the average person who's new to the game, but maybe the question is more like, were there nerves? Were you nervous about how the weekend would go down?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, there was intangible. There was a ton of different intangibles because we're using different sites. We're using different apps. We're using. I mean, I had never done something on that level with vendors and sponsors. I mean, I had done this thing with Teddy Toll, who's a great promoter in Albany. We had done this arena festival 2 years in a row. 1 year we had Slayer and Slipknot. Another year we had In Flames and Kill Switch and a bunch of bands. And even then, I was like, I can't do this again. So I had already gone through this, and I had done smaller festivals like my label festival and stuff. I had already gone through this and failed. But I thought, I learned from those failures. I always say it's not win or lose, it's win or learn. So I thought, it's a good thing to learn from. So the year one, it's like, you know what? Don't go on Memorial Day weekend. that's not good. Don't do that. People want to go to the lake. They want to go see families. They want to just eat a hot dog and some burgers and drink a beer and not leave their yard or whatever. So, but still, we had a great turnout and it was so much fun and it was nerve wracking. But when Lamb of God hit the last note and it was like, all right, pack up all the shit, get ready for the flight. It was like, all right, what are we going to do for year two? And then with year two, I was nervous. I was mainly nervous about Bungle because I just love Scott and Dave Lombardo so much. And I wanted it to go smooth. And Scott had been there obviously with Anthrax and he's coming back this year with the SOD tribute that I'm singing for.
I need to talk to you about that in a sec, but
so he's a big part. Like he's one of our like mayors of Metalfest. So I really wanted to make sure we do right by him. And I know Mike needs certain things, and you know, it's like, Mike needs a hairdresser to braid his hair, and we got to have this, and you want to make sure security's wanding everybody down, and you want to make sure. I mean, I was kind of more nervous, I think, also about possible ejections and people getting belligerently drunk and fights, and none of that stuff happened. I think we had one ejection, which was like,
didn't you have the vagina eating incident when Autopsy played? last year, I think it was.
Wait, was that? No, I don't think that was that. We had another incident that luckily didn't go viral, but it was. I think it was.
Oh, that was MDF. I think it was.
Maybe it was. Yeah, maybe it was. But there might have been some indecent exposures with some girl, and I don't know.
Yeah,
but yeah, we don't need to get into that.
None of that foulness. None of those foul chimings.
No, I don't. There was, I think the one guy we ejected, he just was so wasted and threw up, but he was already outside. So it technically wasn't even, I think, an ejection. It was just, hey, get him into an Uber or a cab and get him home and make sure he's okay.
Now let's talk very quickly about Stormbreeders of Death, because I mean, I would have been, if I had the time, I would, and I had the money, I would literally get on a plane just to go and see that. How did that conversation like come about? What was there ever a plan to get Billy to do it with them and do it as SOD, or how did you, being the front man, come about?
I think I don't think there's a relationship there. I think I think there's no relationship there with those four. And so knowing that, or at least assuming that, I had reached out to Danny Lilker first about doing this thing I do in Connecticut called Thrash Thursday, which now I've expanded. We just did New Jersey this past Thursday with Bobby Blitz from Overkill. It was great. I had never played this place, Dingbats. It was a lot of fun, and the whole staff, everybody was great. But we're doing this similar sized venue in Connecticut. It's a little bar. It has a restaurant, and because when you get to certain size stages, or when you get used to certain size tours, you kind of lose the edge a little bit. It's like you're further away. Obviously, you have a nice dressing room, or a big shower, or maybe you have this like huge long hallway where you can stretch and do it. It's not down and dirty like the old days, like these clubs and these bars where a lot of us cut our teeth back in the day. So Charlie and I, we always say, Charlie Belmore, that is, we always say, we might sort of labor over that decision going into, or we might sort of dread having to go back into the tight space and not have the gear we want, and maybe not have the privacy and not have but then when you do it, it's so awesome. And you're like, why was I even sweating that? And so the first one that we did, I wanted Danny Lilker to come, and he couldn't. And I had reached out to him last year for Metalfest, said, hey, why don't you come out and do the SOD songs with me at the pre-party? And instead I had Paul Bostaff come, and we did like 4 Slayer songs, and I sang, and Rob Flynn came out and others came out. But then Scott, somehow I mentioned it to Scott, and I was like, dude, what if, Lilker's already going to be there. We're going to do some Nuclear Assault songs at the pre-party. Should we just do you're going to stay for Friday. We have hotels. Should we just do an SOD tribute set? And he's like, yo, my son Rev can play drums. We jam that stuff. So then I flew out and we jammed, and I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. It's really special to see him, jam with his son. But also we love that record and we love those songs, and they're so funny and fun. And just because those guys don't have a relationship, why shouldn't the music stay out there? Why shouldn't the legacy stay out there? Because it helps everybody involved. It's not bad to get the catalog out there and get the
for sure, and they're
back out there.
They are. Like one of my favorite live videos that I ever saw, because I lived in South Africa until 2002. So a lot of the stuff that I got there was all dubbed from friends and from friends. One of my favorite live videos from the early days was live at Budokan. It just seems like total chaos, carnage, and the thing about those songs is that they're so tailored to the live experience, like Kill Yourself, Speak English or Die, Fuck the Middle East, all of this. It's like written specifically to be played live.
Yeah, they really struck a nerve, and they really hit on a great sequencing. That's one of the best sequencings on any classic thrash or metal album. And then the arrangements and everything are just perfect. The setups, they're memorable, they're catchy, and they're silly, and they're fun. And right now, with everybody taking themselves too seriously, and again, like, no one's a victim because of a song or for lyrics. It's words don't hurt. I don't care. You can write me 100 emails and tweet me all you want. There's actual real problems in the world, like real terrible shit going on. And some record from 40 years ago has no effect on your life or any of these.
I was actually only pretending. I feel physically unsafe in your presence, knowing you're going to be singing March of the SOD. You know what? I was fucking blown away by that when I saw some of the comments when the news first came out. There was one guy that was actually trying to, and I couldn't figure out whether he's just a God tier level troll or whether he's being serious, because you don't know anymore. But he was actually trying to insinuate that it's been known for a long time that Scott Ian has got white supremacist tendencies. And I thought to myself, Jesus Christ. So what, he's been in the industry, in the scene for 4 decades, and now finally, as he kind of enters the a later phase of his career, it's like, I'm finally going to reveal to them that I'm a member of the far right. Did you see some of that shit, some of the blowback when that news got announced?
I didn't. I tried not to pay attention to it. People were sending it to me. Somebody sent me one, and I clicked on it, and it was something about me, but it was actually kind of funny. So I got a giggle out of it. I think when you make claims like that on the internet, first of all, it never translates into real life, and then also it does a disservice for the real racists and the real homophobes and the real Islamophobes or whatever. But because those people are out there, and you're just wasting your time. Not if you want to engage with someone like that, you're wasting your time trying to engage with, say, me or Scotty, and when you could literally go find actual homophobes and Islamophobes or whatever phobe it is. It's always a phobe, like it's always a fear, which I think is also weird. Like just even that whole term, it feels like some sort of made up, I don't know, psyop or something.
Well, it just seems to be a way to discount, or if not even to discount, it's a way for people to chase clout or social credit anytime that somebody says something, sings something, does something that they don't necessarily agree with. I mean,
do they realize that they create? Do you think that they realize that they created millions of dollars for a lot of these people? Like, I think in the case of say someone like, even if you want to go recent, like really recent, like Slaughter to Prevail, for instance. They just raised the level of infamy and the level of success, because any promotion is good promotion. Any publicity is good publicity. So you're actually better off ignoring it. Like if you really believe whatever, like this guy is some active member of some whatever Nazi community, you're crazy, for one. And then you could actually be directing that energy towards your own life and what you need to do in your own life. Because there's some I remember reading something years ago. It was like, you can only really know and help about 100 or 150 people in your life. You're never going to, no matter how much you get involved monetarily or even inspiring people online to say do like a flash mob, or you're never going to actually change outcomes in real life beyond, like, I think they say like 150 people. I don't know if this is bro science or whatever, but it really clicked with me because I feel like unless you're doing a creative medium, I would agree. I think a creative medium to get that word out, like you'd be better off writing a song or doing a painting or a mural against whatever it is. But even then, you might be creating some reverse magic where then this person that you think is whatever phobe or whatever ism, even then you could be catapulting them to another level of success because it's conjuring exactly their image or whatever.
1,000%. You and I are more or less the same age, and so you touched on the Judas Priest, suicide furor from years back, and we both lived through the Satanic Panic, and saw so many bands that did so well off the back of fundamentalist Christians that were burning their CDs, trying to get people kicked out of school for wearing their T-shirts, all sorts of stuff. I mean, I grew up amongst those people, so for me, when I look at the mentality of people that would attack, an SOD tribute show, or, attack anybody for hosting one of Phil Anselmo's bands, when, for me, the Phil thing is so ridiculous because it's a drunken act, happens in 2016. He's apologized. Nothing since has ever happened. What is he supposed to do? Does he only atone when he's, takes a fucking shotgun and puts it in his mouth? It's ridiculous.
Right.
So it's the same thinking. It's just cult thinking, and Christianity in this case has been replaced with social virtue.
Well, and actually, if you look at in the Phil case, you could say that maybe that did some reverse effect, where then all of a sudden the gears were put in motion to get the Pantera celebration going and go to this next level of a new level, pardon the pun, of success for what he was experiencing currently. So, as much as people want to condemn, see, like there's a saying, it's like, you don't have to forgive when you don't condemn to begin with. And like, that's my thing now, is my new kick is like, I don't have to condemn anybody for anything. It's their journey. They're doing it. They're going to figure it out. But when you want to act like you're morally superior, maybe take a second and look in the mirror. I mean, it's okay to disagree. It's okay to give constructive criticism, and it's okay to voice whatever you want online, within reason, right? Like, obviously, don't be threatening people and don't be lying about people. But if it's your opinion, just remember it could always work against you and for the person that you think you're tearing down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, if the intent from their end is to reduce the number of people that listen to these bands, it's no different to people that try to get us to stop listening to Deicide. If you into rap, I mean, I've said this many times before. I discovered gangster rap and black metal at the same time. It's a big article in this, like, in basically the South African equivalent of Good Housekeeping, where they were like, had a big picture of Varg and the guys from Emperor, and it's like, oh, terrible Norway, black metal, the worst thing ever. They're killing each other and burning churches. And then on the overhead, but it's not just Norway where this terrible music is taking place. There's, also this rap music in America. And I was like, fuck yes, Ice-T, Home Invasion. I'm going to have to check out that album. Check out all the black metal stuff as well. So always has the opposite effect. But just on the topic of Phil's bands, you've got Scour, which are, I mean, the mighty Scour. That new album rips. Down, obviously everyone knows them, fucking absolutely fantastic. But I was curious when I looked at the lineup, because again, having followed you on the podcast, I kind of got a sense for what you're into, but then at the same time, sometimes you'll come up with something which, like, wouldn't have pegged him as somebody who's down with that sort of stuff. And Paradise Lost, I wouldn't have. I mean, they're one of my favorite bands. I wouldn't have gone like, Jamie Jasta. He spends his time listening to Gothic or Shades of God. But the curation, how does that? How what's your approach to curating this festival?
Well, for the Friday, because we kind of leaned power metal last year, we wanted to switch it up and lean more doom, more stonery, more, I guess you could, I don't want to say goth, but black metal. Back in the day, I booked a show on real short notice for My Dying Bride, and the show did great. It did better, even on really short notice. It did better than some of the other shows I had booked. Like, I had an Exodus date I was booking. I actually booked a bunch of Exodus dates on A Lesson in Violence, and My Dying Bride did bigger. And I thought, and it was different kids that came to that show. And that was like, there was girls at that show. They looked like Wednesday from Addams Family. I think it was my first experience, like, seeing a goth. We had two goths in Connecticut. Dave, shout out to Dave, our old drummer, Dave Russo. His girlfriend was like one of the OG goths. And then her friend. And then when I went down that rabbit hole, so to speak, of that style of music, I found that those fans also liked fast, heavy shit like Cradle of Filth or and it just expanded my horizon. I mean, they even like stuff like Godspeed You Black Emperor. And so when I got to Paradise Lost, I was on a big Crowbar kick. And then I booked Crowbar and they had told me they did Europe. They had played Europe with Paradise Lost. And then later on, years later, we toured and shared a bus with Bloodbath, Hatebreed and Bloodbath on a bus, which was a lot of fun. And I just have a sincere love and appreciation of Nick and the guys. And yeah, it seemed like it could be cool with that sort of mixture of Down, Pentagram, Wolves in the Throne Room, Rotting Christ, but then also Paradise Lost, Enslaved. And then for this, maybe the people that saw Down at Ozfest or the more sort of, I guess what you Mayhem Fest type of crowd, they maybe know me from Hatebreed, no Chimera, no Suicide Silence, no Scott from Anthrax and SOD. It seemed like there was some connection there. There was some.
It's a nice diverse blend, but there's a connection there, as you say.
Yeah, there's like a through line where even if you're, I mean, sure. Listen, one thing I've learned from booking these last 3 years is that there's absolutely a guy and a girl in every city at every festival who are going to a festival of 500 bands to 100 bands, 200 bands, whatever it is, and they only like one band. Those people exist, or at least they make it very known that they exist. They're kind of like vegans in that way, where they're very outspoken about it. Like, I'm only going for this band. I will not watch or support or buy merch or even think about seeing any of the other bands. And yeah. I don't know if we believe them or not. But if that person is out there, and I believe they are, then we got somebody. You got
something for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And with Down, it's great. You know, they re-signed with Nuclear Blast. They're one of our sponsors. And you were right about the Scour record. It's just really good timing with the Scour record being so good. I think when you put out a quality record or a big single or just a great video that connects with people, that makes a lot of problems go away. And I appreciate that timing aspect of it, right? Like it worked out great with Arch Enemy putting out a great record. I mean, there's a lot of bands that are coming here on new records, and that I really appreciate.
Yeah, I think with Down, I'm really looking for a like down to level of excellence when they put out their next album. Like I've seen them live before, and one of the most incredible live experiences I ever had was I can't remember what song they played, but they sort of ended the song, and then you just heard this bass just playing kind of gently in the background, lights dim, and all of a sudden Phil grabs the microphone and you start hearing the Led Zeppelin Dazed and Confused lick playing on the bass, and he belts it out. I've been dazed and confused. That was still the London Astoria when that existed. That place felt like it was going to literally implode. Just unbelievable.
I bet. Yeah. Yeah. Especially that was on NOLA.
That was when they were touring. So this was 2006, I think.
Oh, so this is even after Down 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So that was, I mean, I know people want a NOLA set, but there's some really good jams on Down 2.
Oh, I love that album. I've got a real, and I always will have a real affinity for that album. Tell you what else I have an affinity for, and I have a slight bone to pick with you here. Why has there never been another Icepick record? As far as the fucking hardest of hardcore, I honestly, like, I challenge anybody to this day to name me 4 songs that in succession on a record hit harder than Violent Epiphany, Creations of Chaos, With One Ideal, and Show of Force.
Wow, thank you.
Just fucking, I mean, your testosterone levels quadruple when you listen to that.
Yeah, you know, I was just talking to Toby from H2O, and shout out to Danny. I'll see him at Milwaukee Metalfest as well. And we were saying, you know, does Judge need a second album? Does does Gorilla Biscuits need a second album? And if they did a second album, it doesn't matter if it's Rain and Blood. The fans will just say it's not as good as Brain It Down, or it's not as good as the first album. Or even look at Cro-Mags. They and I'm not comparing, believe me, I'm not comparing Icepick to any of those records. I'm very happy you like it and you like those songs, but I'm not saying it's a classic. I'm not saying it. I don't even, all I know is that I don't know, but I would dare to guess that, I mean, there's a lot of people, I know people that they don't even listen to Best Wishes. They only like Age of Quarrel. I don't know if this is a phenomenon that is only happening in hardcore music or crossover.
Or no, dude. I mean, you've met J-Dog, and I'm sure you've met Paul Ledney from Profanatica. Like, J-Dog's not so bad, but with Paul, it's like demo only. Everything else, like, no. It's so no, it's not just hardcore.
Right. So that's a thing. And I don't know if it's because it imprints on you when someone puts out a very creative, impactful piece of art. I don't know if it imprints on you and then everything else just doesn't compare. But I guess I'm just not wired like that, because I can go, like, I'll go back and listen to God Hates Us All more than I listen to Rain and Blood, or I'll go back and listen to Seasons more than I listen to South of Heaven. And then I'll tell that to somebody, they'll go, oh my, I can't believe it. Even the other day I was telling Chris Garza from Suicide Silence, like, he doesn't even know Terrible Certainty or Pleasure to Kill or any of the early Creator. And then I have fans of only early Creator going, I can't believe you like Enemy of God or Violent Revolution or Hordes of Chaos, or, I mean, I could go down the list. I think they were on a legendary roll of like 5 banger albums in a row. I even like New Accept, where I go, man, some of that New Accept is right up there. And you tell that to somebody who's only likes Balls to the Wall, they can't deal. And I'm like, I don't know. You need to open your mind or open your ears, or maybe your ears are broken. I don't know.
I'm always on board for anything where, in the main, there's exceptions, but I'm always on board for anything where the artist sounded inspired to do what they did. Like Paradise Lost is a good example. A lot of people, I remember when Host first came out, they fucking despised that. Like, people sold all their CDs, just like fans of, they just like, to them that band was dead. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. It was like, it sounds to me like a Paradise Lost album. It just sounds like they were inspired and motivated to do something a little bit different. And since then they've been on a tear where they've done that consistently, even though every single album sounds different. But that's the excitement of it. I'm excited to hear what you were inspired to create and present to me in a given, at that point in time.
What do you think? So you didn't think that it was jumping on a trend, or you didn't think it was too heavily influenced by something that was successful at that time?
Host specifically.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely riffed very heavily on Depeche Mode, but if you get to know Greg, he loves Depeche Mode and goth music so much that for me, it is almost. I spoke to him on the podcast about 2 years ago, and we were talking specifically about music. The guy he kind of reminds me of Shane Embury in the sense that he's a student of music, and literally, like, he'll get into a particular style of music and just work through the guts and the minutia of everything he possibly can, and want to, if he's inspired to write that kind of music, like, do the best possible thing he can in that style. So no, I don't think so at all. I would say the only time I feel like they've ever compromised as a band is on their last album. And I feel like with their last album, the compromise was, it feels to me like they still had a couple of leftover ideas from Medusa, some of the like doom death stuff, and it made it onto that album that shouldn't have made it onto that album. That album, you could hear when you get to songs like Hope Dies Young and Ghost and all that sort of stuff, you could hear that's what they wanted to do. The death doom stuff on that record to me sounds really, really forced, and that comes from somebody who's been a fan of that band for literally almost as long as they've been around. I discovered them in 1993. Their first album came out in 1990. So I've been there for the journey. I even like Believe in Nothing, but the last album to me was a bit like I don't feel like this is what you guys really wanted to make.
Yeah, I mean, I think also it could be that because trends come and go, or even themes repeat themselves in the collective consciousness, that at that time in 99, fans might have said it was derivative of what was popular then, because we were experiencing maybe a resurgence in fans discovering Depeche Mode and similar acts, and then there were acts out in the mid to late 90s that were sort of derivative of those original groups. But also, I do think that critics and fans that are very loud, especially now on the internet, sometimes they're projecting their own insecurities. And when a band takes a risk like that, which I guess now in hindsight, it looks more of like a risk because we saw the outcome, which I guess it was a little bit of a valley, right? It wasn't like that run you talked about, that initial run between, I think, Gothic, Shades of God, and Icon. And then obviously Draconian Times, which has founded a whole new audience now, and is even, I feel like, even more beloved now, with promoters wanting them to do that set and with fans wanting them to do that set. And then what was
I was there for the Icon celebration set. My daughter is turning 11 this year, but she was 9 when they did that, and so it was her first show, and she just absolutely fucking loved every second of it. She was kind of sat there. First 2 songs, you could see she wasn't quite knowing what to make of it. And then from the third song, just fucking, she's head banging, throwing her arms around. You know, the woman that was sitting next to us, I actually apologized afterwards. I'm like, listen, I'm sorry, my daughter's going so crazy. And she's like, no, don't stop doing this at all. She's fucking awesome. But
that's awesome.
I mean, crazy that she would like respond so positively towards. I mean, those songs came out in, I think it was 94, and I mean, still sounded incredible.
Yeah. Well, and when you're a band like that that's so prolific, it's kind of, they're almost similar in a way to Kiss or Iron Maiden, in the sense where I don't want to speak out of turn here, but if I'm remembering correctly, they were all like about a year apart up until Draconian Times, right?
Yeah, it was about a year to 2 years.
Right. So you're talking about intense creative and then touring and then creative and then touring. And so then from there on, I don't know what the breaks were like. There was one in between. Host, right? Host didn't come out after.
Host came out after 1 second, and then Believe in Nothing came out after Host.
Right.
And then Symbolic, and then Symbol, I think, and then from Symbol, it's like they kind of started moving slowly back to their roots after Symbol.
But I think you're talking like 8 or 9 or maybe even 10 albums in 11 years, right? It's like it's an incredible amount of output. So there's always going to be people who, like I said, they were imprinted. There was something going on in their life when they got one of those records, and they might, like, we hear about this all the time on the Patreon and on the main show, where people discover a band. Like, I just posted about Earth Crisis, the Slither record, because I was like, I don't allow any Slither disrespect on my Instagram, and so many comments of people like, that's the record that got me into the band. So that, you know, and then I remember people literally calling that record career suicide, and I was like,
dude, there's some fucking rippers on that album. Behind the Wire in particular, just so fucking groovy, like just the sleaziest groove, and Carl just sounds like an absolute badass on that. But I wanted to ask you one more quick Icepick related question. Back when you put this out, Onward to Victory was Andrei Arlovsky's walkout music. Did you ever get to meet the Pitbull?
Oh yeah. I went to multiple fights. Him and his manager were great. Shout out to Big Chris who linked us up. They were very, very cool. I was just deep in the dark river then. I wish I could go back, and I wish I had quit drinking like 2, 3, 4 years earlier, because a lot of it was a blur. Going to Vegas, going to the casinos. I was just partying too much, and it wasn't really business savvy. There was a couple times where they wanted to use the song. One time it was like a fire drill where he was going to be fighting on CBS and they needed to get clearance for the song. And luckily I was near a fax machine, and I was like, I remember being wasted and waiting for the fax and being like, oh, I got to go to this show, or I got to go to this bar. And I signed off on it. And then when he fought on CBS, which was a big deal for the smaller promotion, this was in a different promotion.
That was with Affliction, wasn't it?
Yes. To see that and to hear it in the background when he came out was like, wow. And then it got into the Strike Force game. Luckily I didn't, because there's been many opportunities that I've blown in the partying days. And that one, luckily he came out to it a bunch. But the song had already been recorded. And because I was still technically in a deal with Hatebreed at a different record label, I just didn't want them to have any red tape. So we ended up calling it an Icepick song, and then figured, let's throw it on that record, even though it was already recorded and we didn't have time or the budget to go back in and get Danny on there. It just so happened to work out that he was able to use the song in the UFC. Although I had heard that Dana didn't really like the song,
wasn't a fan,
and thought it was like death metal or something. And then I had heard Rogan and Dana saying that about my Matt Brown entrance, the song that I did for Matt Brown. But there's been others.
Well, you sing on that Matt Brown song for the most part.
Yeah, well, I tried to tailor it to their liking so that they would allow it. You know, a lot of people don't realize that it really comes in a lot of these big organizations. It comes down to one or two guys and their preference. Like Jim Johnston at WWE, I took a meeting with him for Sheamus entrance song. I think it was Sheamus. And then I did the song more like modern rock kind of. And then they didn't use it. They wanted it heavy and hard like Hatebreed, but at that point there was nothing heavy and hard that they had ever had as far as I was concerned. So yeah, you know, you take 100 meetings and one or two of them pan out, and you're just lucky to get to the next one. And I'm very, very appreciative of Arlovsky and his team, because that was a really fun moment in time. And then people would always say, oh, I love, playing Arlovsky in the Strike Force game. So that was cool.
Well, dude, that was also, arguably when MMA was at its most fun. I mean, I'm looking at that card that you're referring to now. So that was headlined by Kimbo Slice versus Ken Shamrock, Jake Shields against Paul Daly for the Elite XC welterweight title. You had Arlovsky against Big Country Nelson. That was a fucking sick card. That.
Yeah, and actually he came out twice to it. He came out to it and lost to Fedor.
When he got knocked out mid-air by
jumping,
Fedor. Yeah. Which was one of the craziest knockouts ever.
But I was so happy for his comeback and to be able to go back into the UFC, because he's a great guy and just an incredible fighter. To have that run and still like fought recently in the UFC. I mean, still to be at that level is incredible. And it just, I mean, I've done other songs. That one was the coolest one. I did one for Shane Carwin, did one for Matt Brown. I've done a bunch. But I know that they're leaning towards different styles of music, less metal. It's cool when you see Clay Guida or someone come out to Pantera, or occasionally you hear Rage Against the Machine or AC/DC. But yeah, it would. One of these days we got to get in Dana's ear and be like, hey man, you made it, you did it, you sold the company. They might even do. I'm hearing they might even do a deal with Netflix now. Metal is in a way bigger, more acceptable place now, and it doesn't. I'm not even saying for me. It could be the next kid, the next band. Let one of these heavier songs, let one of these fighters come out to these heavier songs. It could be a career changer.
Music-wise for you, it's probably about time to think about a sequel to Weight of the False Self. I know you did your Jasta for All record, but like, what have you got brewing in the background at the moment?
Yeah, I think creatively the ideas are all there, the lyrics are all there, the music's all there. I've been just I've been going around taking different meetings with labels. I'm still, it was kind of funny and cool. I just mentioned in passing that we were free agents, and then that went kind of semi-viral or something, because then we got hit up by every label under the sun. And that was really nice to see that there was interest there from all these labels. Cause I really do. I am one of those people that I really believe that your next biggest, best song is always in you. You just have to get to that point where you can channel it or you can grab it out of the ether. Anybody can do it. You just have to get there, and you have to figure out the path there. And so, and now that Way of the False Self is finding fans, I thought, yeah, I could expand on a lot of these topics. But then there was also new topics I had never touched on before that I had been writing about and riffing out about. And I really got inspired. The real sort of motherload of riffs that I wrote that I got inspired was right after Milwaukee, because it was like you get this post-festival sort of slump where you're like, damn, now what am I going to do? And I had to go to Europe right away, but Testament had given me a guitar. They did a deal with Dean. They gave me this beautiful guitar. It's here somewhere. And so I just started riffing out on that guitar as soon as I got back. And I don't know if it just had good energy from the festival in it, or if it had a different feel of the neck, but I started messing around with different frets and different placements, and not so much different tunings, because we always just kind of stick to that standard C tuning. But with Jasta for All, we did some drop D stuff, and I do have one guitar here tuned to drop D, and then and we did some stuff in standard D, and we also did some stuff in C sharp, which my voice fits, I think, almost even better in than standard C. But just having that experience and then listening back to Way to the False Self and going, all right, yeah, I'm ready. I got enough. Like, I had 24 topics kind of written on a vision board. And I thought, all right, I got to narrow those down to 14. Can I combine? And then I kept going. And yeah, now we'll probably have a single any day now, or maybe even two singles. The cool thing is there's no rules anymore. There's no gatekeepers anymore. So I don't want to be, I think I've been too anti-suit in the past. And like I said before, all I know is that I don't know. There's a lot of good suits that can point you in the right direction, or that can pull a favor, or have great ideas. We have to find those suits so that we're not in a position where all of a sudden we do the deal, we sign the deal, and then some suit above the other suit goes, wait, hey, why are we giving a band with this name all this money to do these videos or to do this marketing? And, pull that. We don't want that. We want the person that we do the deal with, the buck needs to stop there. They need to be a real partner, and they need to be able to come up with innovative, cool, new ideas, because we're going to bring it like we always do. And I think even if you don't like if you're one of those people, like we were talking about earlier, like homeboy from Pro Fanatica, I always forget his name. What's his name?
Paul Ledney.
Paul. Shout out to Paul. They had somebody. They made our box office person quit. Between them and Incantation, there was so much satanic shit going on. Or there was another band too. Who was it? Possessed. I think between those three, this poor person was like, I gotta leave and I gotta go back to church. And they just quit. But so there's those types that are like, I only like the demo. I only like the first album, which is funny to me because those are the least streamed songs. Like our biggest songs are later in our career, at least on streaming. Yeah. And definitely when we play live, they're much later. And so I feel like if we can recreate some of that magic, even if it's just a little bit, it's got to be the right situation. But it feels good that there's no rules currently, and the new blueprint. It doesn't really apply to us because I kind of put us more in that career band lane, like a Napalm Death or like a Crowbar, or like even if you want to talk about even some of the bigger bands, like even someone say like Lamb of God, because we've done major label records as they have as well.
Well, what you've proven, I think, is your ability to stay relevant, and you've proven your longevity. And I think with that comes certain benefits. One of them being is creatively, as you say, there shouldn't be any. There's no blockers anymore. You shouldn't have to think about. There shouldn't be no business considerations about what you're doing. You're not going to be recording an acoustic folk album, but people generally, when it comes to Hatebreed, there's already kind of an installed base of people that are excited for whatever it is that you put out next.
Yeah, we're very lucky that doesn't. There's not a day where I don't wake up, and that's one of the main things I'm grateful for, because I really do feel like eventually the songs find the ears that they need to find. And there's a connection made, doesn't matter where we are in the world, and that's just such a good feeling to know that you've made even the slightest difference. It could just be they were headbanging in their car on their way to work, and it gave them a charge, a little bit of some positive vibes. And because I love that, like I'm always appreciative of that because I'm one of those people, like I'll go listen to Dakota's Red, or I'll go listen to Time Waits for No Slave, and then you find those gems. You're like, oh my God, the deep cut, and that you maybe skipped, or that you maybe were talking on the phone during or something. Then you go and you find, and you're like, oh my God. So it's out there. That's the beauty of that. The entire genre. It's like that. Those songs are out there. You don't even know it's your favorite song yet. You don't even know it's your. Like I always talk about being addicted to songs. That's the best feeling. Like when you're just totally addicted to a song, you can listen to it 1,000 times and it doesn't become monotonous. It doesn't become a drag. It always feels as good. Like I go and listen to Perihelion. How do you say it on King Gizzard? Just
that's not really a band I've paid a huge amount of attention to. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
And they're one that's like, maybe they're going to do something funky. Maybe they're going to do something retro 70s. Maybe they're going to do something thrash. Like they're my dream band to book as a headliner for Milwaukee Metalfest, because not only would half the audience not know who they were and probably be like, what the fuck is this? But then they would see the 4,000 people come out of the woodwork, sell the place out, and go absolutely fucking bonkers for them. And it would just be so sick. Like them, they're my dream headliner. Them, Wardruna, and Hylung. Like that would be my dream 3, because those are the ones that I just like right now. I'll just go and I'll just be like, God. Like I watched this set the other night of Hylung, and I forget what the reason was exactly. It might have been a fire marshal reason or a scheduling reason or something with the nudity, maybe. Like, I don't think we're allowed certain nudity, even if it's an artistic. There was some barrier as to why we couldn't get them. So I'm hoping that changes. I know when they're nude, I think she's all painted black.
It's tasteful.
Yeah. But it was one of those ones that I'm probably like pronouncing wrong. It was like Norupo, or I don't know, one of those videos. And I was just it just takes you to a different place. It's just so creative and amazing and just different, right, from what people are used to. But still, metalheads like it. People that are into punk and hardcore like it. Weirdos and hippies that are down at the fucking gazebo in the center of town, like townies like it.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't hurt to draw those people into the festival, and then maybe they see Profanatica or Incantation, or like, fuck, this is rad too.
Yeah. Well, Jamie, I could probably talk to you for fucking hours on end, but I know you're a busy man, so thank you so much for your time, and hopefully we bump into each other down the road. Good luck for the festival. Looking forward to seeing what you do with Summer Slaughter as well. And like I said, I hope at least you take away from this, if nothing else, is that there's a dude that to this day, on at least a weekly basis, still listens to Violent Epiphany.
That's awesome. Then I guess I got to really get the vinyl out, because we finally, after 23 years, we finally got the Perseverance vinyl. It'll be here any day now. And I guess that'll be the next one. Maybe that'll be my goal. I'll put that on the vision board with the 40 other things. Maybe I got to get that Icepick vinyl out by Christmas. I think I could do it, or by Hanukkah. Shout out to Danny. Yeah, I'll try to get it out by Hanukkah. I think that'll be a good one.
Awesome. All right, dude. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Take care, my man.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Two perfect tracks to cap off a thoroughly enjoyable conversation. You heard Icepick off their album A Violent Epiphany. The song is called With One Ideal, and that faded straight into Kill Yourself by SOD off their Live at the Budokan recording. That was released back in 1992. Absolutely classic stuff. You're going to be able to hear some SOD classics at this year's installment of the Milwaukee Metalfest. That takes place on Friday, May the 16th, and it runs all the way to Sunday, May the 18th. The lineup includes Down, Paradise Lost, Exodus, Death Angel, Demolition Hammer, Scour, Rotting Christ, Sacred Reich, Harm's Way, Gwar, and a bunch of other great bands. I'll post a link to buy tickets in the description to the podcast. So if you're in the area, buy yourself a ticket and let me know how it was. I genuinely do think, just speaking to Jamie, that he is a guy who has the health of the scene very much front of mind when it comes to the bands that he books, the bands that he promotes. And even though our music taste sometimes overlaps, sometimes diverts, such as the case of Paleface Swiss, where I did have to swallow a grin, given my thoughts that I shared on their music on the news rant. But yeah, it was great talking to him, and I just want to say a big thank you, not only to him for his time, I want to say a massive thank you to Katie from Suspiria PR for getting this interview set up, and also to his Patreon members who sat in on the conversation. Great to have them there. Hope you guys enjoyed the chat, and hope you guys have gone on to check out Into the Necrosphere as well. Now, I mentioned the news rant, and before I kick off the news rant, you guys know I like to share a PSA. I like to get a little something off my chest. This week, specifically, I want to get off my chest the following. If you're a low testosterone, cuckolded loser who blows all your money on meme coins and then cries the blues because you've lost it all, you're a fucking idiot and you need to hit the bricks, because this is my weekly news rant.
Round them up for judgment. And hang them where the world can see.
There you go, young man. How you doing?
Good, man. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear and I can see you. I am busy in the background, by the way, with some top-level man shit. So if you look at that, that's my Traeger app. I've been up since I put some beef ribs on last night at about midnight. So we're getting close to the business end where in an hour or so I'll need to wrap them. So this is actually perfect timing. How's it been going with you, man?
Good. Just been busy with work, art, music, you name it. That's what I've been doing. So
yeah. Well, you know something? Our mutual friend Nathan Glover mentioned this to me the other day. It's been a very interesting journey to take with you, looking at how your music has evolved over the years, because the way that you record, you basically write the song, record it, and then put it out almost straight away. We get to see in real time how your songcraft, how your ability as a songwriter, how all of this is improving. And I've got to tell you, I was really, really knocked on my ass by this Conspiracy X, this new Conspiracy X track. It is exceptional.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's funny because we started that one. We started probably we started in June last year, and then I done 2 tracks. We got Robin Stone on board, with his drum tracks, which makes a big difference because I will admit the whole process of it was I'm not happy completely because of the programmed drums. I'm not all for programmed drums.
Yeah.
Some projects it does suit with some projects, but this is not a electronic album or some young kid that can't find people around same vicinity as them, and it's easy in that sense, and a lot of people are doing, and the pins and the programs are pretty good these days where sometimes it is hard to determine whether it's fake or real, but I found that the previous Conspiracy X stuff you can definitely tell.
I always thought that there was something intentional about that because it kind of gave it a bit of an industrial feel. But I would definitely say I prefer the direction that you've gone down. I like the previous stuff very, very much, but what you've done here, you've retained the best parts of the previous release, and you've added just a really nasty, gnarly edge to it. I mean, some of those double-track vocals, the rhythm, the timing in your voice, just every single thing about it. Just it's you kind of have almost sort of old school Deicide type death metal meets the stuff that you were doing, the experimental stuff you were doing with Conspiracy X previously.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's you can't go past the younger Deicide albums and the multi-layered highs and lows, which I'm a big fan of. It just brings a different dynamic to the vocal. Plus, normally, as in the past, I've always done the black metal thing. So this was, I think it's another reason why I decided to do this as well, because like I'm a massive death metal fan, as everyone knows. So to be able to do a death metal project that was not just some, I don't know, throw. I've got like in Ryan, like the guitarist, like he's just he's a madman as well. But an amazing talent, like he's a riff master, So working with him and what he works with equipment wise, I knew it was going to be like a full next level kind of production. So it needed that extra. It was more of a challenge for me. Anything is a challenge I want to take on board, but doing a death metal album is always on the bucket list. So this really ticked that box. And with new stuff, I had to, with a few discussions with Ryan, because the first couple of EPs are very experimental, as you put it, industrial. But I really want to hone into a more structured sound, the putts, as in, like you have your verse, chorus, and so on, bridge. Structured in that way, but not so much. So we don't want to just be particular with following a structure. It's just like, let's just go with what it is. Having Robin on drums, he brings a lot of structure for Ryan because he will go off on a tangent. If he's programming his own drums, it's going to be chaos.
Yeah.
So having Robin on board has changed the whole dynamic as well. So, and more of a professional approach.
Yeah. All right, my man. Well, let's dive into some news. We're on metalstorm.net as always, friends. The first news headline that is grabbing my attention: Putridity have released their first LP, or will release their first LP in 10 years. On June the 27th, 2025, brutal death metal formation Putridity will put out their first studio album in 10 years entitled Morbid Atraxia. This is the follow-up to Ignominious Atonement. They came out in 2015. Very, very well received on Metal Archives. I'll probably need to go back and give that a listen because I haven't checked it out in a while, but 95% on Metal Archives. The song we're going to listen to that they have shared here is the second track off the new album. It's called Mors Mater Nostra. Let's give it a listen. I'm going to pause there. Fun fact for you about this band: it was originally, much like some of your projects, a one-man project consisting of the founding member Putrid Chikio, I think is how I pronounce his surname. I'm sure I've buggered that up, but he produced Putridity's first demo, performing all instruments and vocals before inviting other musicians to the unit that same year. The Putridity logo is drawn by him also. What do you think?
It's in your face. It's definitely suffocation infused in some elements, but yeah, it's not bad.
It kind of had, it lost me up to about the 40-second mark. Like there was a bit of structure that came back into the song around the 40-second mark, because up to that point, I just felt like it was a bit all over the place. And this is always my issue with brutal death metal. Like there are bands like Brodequin that do it exceptionally well, because they understand that as brutal and in your face and heavy as the music needs to be, there still has to be something that hooks you in. There still has to be a riff. Like there has to be a structure. There has to be something that, when you're done listening to the album, you're still thinking about, and we go back to the old time.
It's only lose you.
Yeah, exactly.
It really just, there's nothing that really stands out.
No.
And go, fuck, I've never heard that before. But
no.
It's like, it's the one listen and you'll forget about it until someone speaks about it again.
There's a vibe to it. Like I get that, but it's, let's not even refer to the bands I keep bringing up on the news rant and on the podcast. Let's take a band like a Bremelin, really, really brutal death metal, but most of Bremelin records, there are at least 4, 5, 6 songs that you can remember afterwards, and they have those moments where the song just everything just becomes much more simplified. And because it becomes much more simplified, in my view, it just becomes much more impactful. Like I've really been digging again recently, as we're on the topic of brutal death metal, Broken Hope's Repulsive Conception album. And that record is just smattered with songs like that. Into the Necrosphere being one of them.
These type of it's like it's almost on the border of to some degree deathcore kind of.
Yeah,
it's very convoluted. The riffs become all messy, where the older style death metal, even like look, we always mention them, but Werewolves is like a prime example of how you conduct, deliver. It's the riffs, the heavy, it's still aggressive, but the clarity is there. It does have to be messy. It does have to be convoluted with 10 layers of guitars just to make it heavy. It's just brutal for the hell of it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And when it's brutal for the hell of it, it becomes all show and no go, which is my catch-all description for a lot of these bands, because that's just how it sounds to me. I mean, Werewolves is the cream of the crop as far as I'm concerned. When it comes to that, because I can think of songs on their first album, second album, third album. Like there's songs on every single record where right now I can start belting out the lyrics. Dog Knotted off the Dead Are Screaming being a great example. Dog Knotted, transformation, fear, it hits you deep inside. Genius. Yeah. I mean, it's so fucking heavy, but so memorable at the same time. I just don't feel like there's anything.
But it's like that with even the vocals, with a death metal vocal, a good death metal vocal, there is still pronunciations. You can still, you can sing that because but it's hasn't lost its touch with the aggression and the brutality.
Yeah, agree. All right, so that to me is, it's I would say a reluctant thumbs down, because I want to like it. I'm just not feeling it quite like I should, and that's maybe because there's just so much good shit to listen to.
It's exactly. If it was on the shelf, you'd look at it because of the album cover, and then 100%. Look for the Werewolves album.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, dude. That upcoming Werewolves album is the absolute fucking bee's knees.
Yeah, I've been trying to reel Matt in, trying to deliver a pre-listen. It's like, Matt, I will.
I'll lay the foundation. I'll lay the foundation beforehand, though. Unfortunately, I've not been sampled on this one, so that obviously does come with it a penalty of at least 4 points out of the score out of 10 subtracted straight away. But no, on a serious note, I actually think this is the best thing they've ever done. I know they feel that way too, but like, there's no question for me. This is the best thing that they've produced.
Yep.
I think people are going to fucking shit themselves when they get to it. All right, let's get on to another song. Now, there's part of me that knows I'm going to hate this, but because so many people bring it up and say, oh, I'm a big fan of Primus, I figured I may as well give them the benefit of the doubt. Primus have premiered a new track called Little Lord Fentanyl. Bay Area rockers Primus have premiered a new song called Little Lord Fentanyl. It features guest vocals by Maynard James Keenan of Tool, the little-known band Tool, and also marks the band's debut from with new drummer John Hoffman, who joined Primus last February. Anyway, like I said, I am very confident I'm going to think this sucks, but since many of the Legion have said that they're fans of Primus, that is about as much as I can take of that shit. I have only one response. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to voice the response myself. I'll let an absolute internet legend voice the response for me. If you like that song, here's what I think of you.
Why are you gay?
That is my response. If you like that fucking stupid song, there's one Primus song that I like. It's called DMV, because I think they generally do, they do summarize my feelings of visiting the DMV on that track. But the rest of everything else they ever released was fucking nonsense.
John the Fisherman was about as far as I went. This is cool. This is different. But that was back in 1995.
Yeah.
But yeah, apart from no.
So this one won't be. You're not penciling it in on your best albums of the year list.
I think how old is he now? He'll be around 60 for sure. Les Claypool, but like he's flexing, still flicking his twingers around. So good on him. And good on them. Like
I'm about to say that the fact that he's still doing his thing, great. But his thing is not something that I enjoy.
Yeah, you have to get on the DMT for that one.
Yeah, well, something you'd need to be on the crack to enjoy is Solar Cycles. And in my view, generally speaking, last week it was brought up, my bad takes or so-called bad takes on metal. I don't think they're bad takes. I think they're the fucking me laying down the law. Here's another take. 99.9% of bands describing themselves as symphonic metal are fucking atrocious. Absolutely unlistenable crap that should never have made its way. It shouldn't be called metal. It should just be called fucking, I don't know, Dungeons and Dragons fanboy muck. It is awful.
It's not for me, never will be. Hated it. It's on the line of symphonic power metal, and it's fucking never seen the likes of, I don't know where to start, but there's been a lot and a lot. And
if you listen to some of those
recycled.
fucking, those those later Therion albums with the choirs and the if you listen to that, then as far as I'm concerned, you may as well listen to any number of nameless pop bands, because to me it's as fucking atrocious. It's as reprehensible. Zero threat, zero menace, nothing heavy. It's something you could play in the house when your grandma's there, and she's going to go, "Wow, that's really nice." It sounds so good. It sounds so good when they have the opera singers with some guitar.
I don't even think my grandma would even say that. She'll rip out, open up, and say, "I like that album."
Matty, get some more of that Spells of Torment that you were playing. We get some of that on. On the topic of Spells of Torment, before we go to the next song, you mentioned to me that something might be brewing on that front as well.
Oh, it's 3/4 done. So it's just about playing like timing. I'm literally doing two doing Conspiracy X and Spells at the same time. Probably more so Conspiracy X, because there's a time frame that I've achieved with putting out delivery of 23rd of May. So I've sort of had to put a date. So I just I'm committed and I have to do it. And then after would be the final quarter of Spells and Torment. So tracks are done. Now it's just about vocals and mix, master, all that kind of stuff. But we also have another member of Spells of Torment, which is the guitarist for Toramorna from Melbourne, which is Kyle. He's doing a bit of lead, bit of solo action. So it's probably not something that we've sort of wanted to have ever, was solos, but on this album, it's it's really bringing back the old school Slayer with some the banger riffs are still there, all my inspirations, but also having that old school Black Bathory. I think I sent you one track, pre vocals, but I think how you describe it was perfect. But yeah, man, it's just tracking well. Pretty happy with it. Austin's got his new little drum sound happening, so it's a little bit different on the drum wise, where before we recorded the drums literally just straight to an iPhone, just to give that old school sound, that old boomy kick drum. Everything was just wanted to make it as old school as possible. But this one, this new sound's a little bit different. So, but also the guitars are different. The riffs are a little bit different in the sense that they're a bit more structured and a bit heavier. But it's still dirty and raw. You're not going to get your first class production. Totally opposite of Conspiracy X. But that's how it's intended. It's how it's always been intended. So whether people dig that or not, it's we're unfazed. I just want to get it out. We just love doing a whole range of shit. As you know, with all my projects, they're different from one end of the scale to the other.
Yeah,
variety's the key in my life.
Well, you also have I think partly why we get on so well when it comes to music is you're the same as me. I think you're just generally a fan of music, period. Doesn't matter what style it is, as long as it's good.
Yeah, exactly,
as long as it evokes an emotional reaction in you. And the cool thing is, especially with Conspiracy X, you're not afraid to bring those elements in. Just a comment on Drew Goth, aka Austin. This is another thing that myself and Nathan were talking about the other day. I've finally pinned down who Austin reminds me of in terms of his drum style. And I'm saying this, I know he'll hear this, I'm saying this as a massive compliment to him, and so I hope he takes it as such as well. He is the Phil Rudd of black metal. That dude has just got groove and swagger for absolute days. Like I still feel like his best drum work was on Battles May Cease, but War is Forever. That last sequence on the first song, it's just the simplest drum line, but he plays it so fucking well and with so much emotion and so much passion. But he's a perfect fit for Spells of Torment.
Yeah,
no question.
100%. Yeah, that was the thing. Like I've been a drummer for 30 years, and that I couldn't find anyone to be in spells as a guitarist and so forth. And that's why I went, oh, well, fuck it. I'll do guitars and I'll do everything and I'll look for a drummer. And I was talking to Austin at the time. This is many, many years ago. And yeah, straight away he was on board because based off what he does. And it's not flamboyant. It's not cocky. It's not fucking, swinging his cock around. It's like he feels it. If it's a good riff, he knows exactly how. I don't even have to say it. It's just bang on. It's not supposed to be, everything's supposed to be just dirty, ugly, and ferocious.
Yeah.
But he does it in a fine fashion where it's not, I don't know, he has his own style. It's,
I was just about to say his style is instantly recognizable. And to me, only the most elite of the elite drummers reach that pinnacle. It's one thing to be technical, especially nowadays. And you tell me if this is just me being ignorant, because I'm not a drummer. You are. I think nowadays it's easier to be ultra technical than it was in 1992. Like if I listen to Blessed of the SIK, I feel like that's a far more impressive drum performance by Pete Sandoval than a lot of these deathcore drummers and the.
Yeah, 100%. And you'll find, and you really, really listen to it, to this day's, drumming style is very, there's no creativity. It's like, who can be the fastest? Who can play 240 BPM? Who can, mash in the gigantic rolls? There's, like you said, there's no feeling. There's no emotion. And it's very like you could program it and there'd be no different. That is actually the perfect way to articulate my gripe with it is a lot of modern drumming you could program, no one is going to know the difference. Yeah, and that's one exactly. And then what's the point, really? Yeah, you on video on your little TikToks and all that shit. You can see and you go, wow, he's very impressive. He can play really fast. I love this guy. I'm going to follow him and try and emulate everything he does because, I want to be like in Lorna Shore.
Yeah, Lorna Snore. And then you get a drummer like Dave Haley who can do both. Ultra technical and just again instantly you can hear it's him when you hear him play.
Yeah, you have your blocks where you want to be at, and it suits it, and then boom, there's Dave at his best mixing it up.
Yeah, 100%. All right.
Yeah.
Let's listen to some more music. Horn are streaming a track called Ergot. It says here, German black metal band Horn has shared Ergot, the first preview track from their upcoming album. The latter is planned to be released in 2025, 2026, so they're getting started on the promotion early. Recorded, mixed, and mastered by Marcus Stock at Studio E. The album cover looks very... I might be imagining things here, but it looks to me like it actually looked to me very Hordem Rife. Either way, Hordem Rife's music I like. Behemoth is fucking nonsense. Let's hear what Horn sounds like. It's probably worth mentioning that the upcoming album, whatever it's going to be called, will be their 11th. So these guys have been around since 2002, and they've been pretty busy. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I didn't mind it. It's where are they from?
Germany.
Maybe Germany. Yeah, it has this, I don't know if it's here, but it's got this this Greek feel to it. The Greek black.
Yeah, maybe a little.
Yeah, it has this element of it. Maybe it's just the vocals a little bit, but I don't know. Yeah, I didn't mind it. It's pretty flowy. It's not nothing I haven't really, nothing that's different than things I've had before. But yeah, I think it's okay.
Yeah, I'm
not too judgy, but yeah, it's.
Now,
yeah.
here's a question for you. As a man who puts out a lot of music, has had his music feature on the news rant as well as elsewhere. Would you rather someone say, "I absolutely fucking hate this," or they think it's okay, or obviously, you're going to say it's great, but between the choice of hatred or indifference, which is what I think we both feel towards this song, what would you choose instead?
Fucking hell. I don't want to be too hard. Like it's, I don't know. You're putting it really on me in the ears. I'd say it's not my cup of tea.
No, but what I'm saying is, as a musician judging your music, like say
judging my music.
Yeah, say we had like a Spells of Torment track on here, and you were somebody else. You're Matt Rizzo, and we're listening to Matt Rizzo.
Yeah, I would say 100%. I would say, that's okay.
but would you prefer the response to be hatred, like this is fucking awful, or indifference, like it's all right?
Oh well, if someone's going to say it's fucking awful, I just know that there's been fucking malice in their opinion and just being a fuckwit.
I have plenty of malice on the news rant, by the way.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, exactly. That's why I love it. But yeah, I'd rather someone be upfront and tell me the truth. Like it's their opinion. I personally know that Spellman or Conspiracy, not everything's going to float with everyone, and they have different tastes and stuff. But when it comes to this, I feel like I haven't. If I compare stuff with, as we all do with our favorites, what people can actually achieve and try and deliver. Like I try and do it. It doesn't pull off all the time, but you do try, and like this is good. But it's nothing that really just goes, that's
well, let me clarify what I'm driving at. How many times have you heard a song that you went, man, I fucking hate that, and then a year or two later on, you revisit it and you go, Jesus, I was wrong about this. This is actually really, really good. Versus a song that you heard and you just went, it's all right, and you moved on. You're actually more likely, I think, to go back to a song that you hated, almost to remind yourself why you hated it, than you would be something that's indifferent. It's like in life, if you're a single dude who neither of us are, but you would rather a girl hate you than a girl be indifferent towards you.
Yeah,
because indifference means you've just written it off. Like I feel indifferent towards this in the sense that it sounds all right. There's nothing about it that's particularly objectionable. But is there a chance I will ever listen to this again? No.
That's exactly my point. Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at. It's just like I just know that it's hard to achieve these days. Like something that just really beats and stands out amongst the rest. How compressed the scene is and how much is coming out. As we always say, there's just so much to get through that it's impossible. And how many gems have we missed? Fucking probably 1,000.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. There's an incredibly high volume of great stuff, but there's also an incredibly high volume of stuff that just kind of floats by because there's just nothing remarkable about it.
We're sort of the derivative of like the labels, like where we go, like a lot of people like will jump on here for the new stuff and make their own assumptions and that, whatever their inklings are over their taste. But I think the older you are and the more you've listened to in the past, you've got these heights of where music is and we love, and it's hard to find that level these days, because we just, the comparison is always going to be, we try not to be so subjective or objective, but we are, because we know what the old days were like, and
we know what the benchmark is.
They are the golden days, and we will, that's the golden days, and we just want something that just fucking comes close to that. Please, can someone? But if you've got someone who's 19-year-old who's just been jumping on for those 2 years, this is going to be fucking amazing.
Yeah, possibly. Well, another band that we know the 19-year-olds really love, Lorna Snore, are connected to the next band we're going to listen to, Signs of the Swarm, bringing out their new album in August. It says here, Signs of the Swarm have unleashed their brand new single, Hell Must Fear Me, the first glimpse of their upcoming new studio album, To Rid Myself of Truth, set for release on August the 22nd via Century Media Records. The record was produced, engineered, mixed, and mastered by Josh Schroeder. It features guest appearances from Will Ramos of Lorna Snore, Phil Bozeman of Whitechapel, and 156 Silence. Check out the music video for Hell Must Fear Me, directed by Vicente Cordero below. Right, let's give it a whirl. So, I can tell you right now, based on the music video, the vocalist definitely doesn't look like somebody I'd want to be friends with.
I was going to say, can I just speak through all the 19s out here? That's fucking gangster. Fucking, oh man.
Yeah. This is a summary of a lot of stuff that we were talking about.
Insult to fucking metal. That's what it is.
Drums that just sound, I mean, they, again, could have been programmed. They almost salvage it around the 42, 43 second mark when they have that break and it gets a bit more groovy. Like they were starting to angle towards something that I was like, okay, now it's maybe getting a little bit more interesting. But again, it's just an all show no go band. This like it's not, to me this isn't heavy. This isn't aggressive. This is just fucking dumb.
Not at all. I was more intrigued. I was like, what kind of stage set is that? I'm trying to work out what they're going for here. They got the Roman pillars, the Roman balcony.
They got the Roman balcony, and then a bloke being ghetto, and then playing Russian roulette with himself.
A gold-faced Day of the Dead fucking Mexican woman with a gun. Mafia, the cartel. They're hard. It's just frightening.
Yeah. Well, when you wave your hands around like this, limp wristed.
I was waiting for Fred to jump out. Wave. Fred was doing it.
Dude, I'm gonna just say this. I would listen to Fred every day of the week and twice on Sunday before I listen to that bullshit. I've mentioned it before on the show, but there is one thing that no one can take away from him, and that is, in my view, he was the front man of the wildest fucking show I think that has ever been done. Woodstock 99.
Show, the doco, everything. It's just, it is off the chart.
Yeah.
To be that influential to cause such chaos like that is it's definitely a statement on your.
I was about to say, if you're a frontman, and that should be the benchmark for you. It's like if you can command an audience of what 400,000, I think it was, to that degree, then you know you've arrived. You know you've mastered your craft.
Yeah, and still 25 years later, still talking about it. So
100%. And people, I mean, when will that ever be topped? Like you don't see that sort of thing at shows anymore. Tell you where you do see it, when they play. I watched a bootleg the other day that someone recorded from the balcony when Limp Bizkit played at Wembley Arena, and they don't sound. I mean, they sound like old men now. The crowd was still going fucking insane. I didn't see that level of activity at that very same arena when Slayer played on their final run. So
it's one of those bands that has a lot of demographic that enjoy it. So it's
the front man from Signs of the Swarm. He definitely enjoyed it for reasons that we probably best leave unsaid.
I'll tell you what, Mexican Cartel sign them up.
Tell you another band that I've seen live multiple times, and they always bring the heat when they're on stage. Death Angel. They've just released a new song. Wrath, in brackets, Bring Fire. Says here, Bay Area thrash metal veterans Death Angel have released their first song in 6 years called Wrath, Bring Fire. Whether this music piece is a one-off single or will appear on the band's long-awaited 10th studio album, which will be their first since 2019's Humanicide, is unknown at this time. I actually thought that there were troubles in the camp after Mark from Death Angel. Yeah, after he'd absconded to go on tour with Kerry King, but either way, seems like they've managed to put their pains and sorrows aside. Let's hear what this new track sounds like. Are you a fan of Death Angel, or I don't know if you've spoken about it? Are you a fan of thrash generally?
Well, they're like the very, very old school Death Angel, like Ultraviolence. You can't surpass. It's and Act 3 is like that was my favorite. Everyone was like, back in the day it was Ultraviolence, but Act 3 was like I loved it. But it's sort of like towards the mid of their releases, it's sort of like I got tapered off. It wasn't like quite the same. They're always good, I don't think, but I felt like there was nothing new that was really outstanding. They were very, very talented musicians, like at that younger age. And
there was a period of time where they were thought of as the next Metallica. I mean, they had a lot of people that weren't around for it, and I wasn't around for it, but I've obviously studied the history. In the 80s, they were seen as the next Metallica.
It was very technical back in the day. Like I think it was like the time changes and just there's just a different type of thrash. It just sort of like it's chopped away from the mainstream of the elements of thrash and had this, I don't know, just had this real different, their own style that just was sort of differentiated themselves from like Anthrax and Slayer at the time. But yeah, the first two was like, they're my favorite. And there's some, good tracks along the way. But this one, I think it's good, but I think the vocals are really struggling to keep up that forte.
It sounds very anodyne to me. The production is it sounds very clinical. Like, let's take a song that is often reviled by Death Angel fans. I absolutely love it, and I love it because I've seen them do it live. And when they do it live, they just nail it. Bored off Frolic Through the Park. There's little touches that they bring into that song that just make it so fucking cool. One of them being, as the main riff is playing, the second guitarist comes in and all he's doing is just playing one note, like over the main riff, and it just like adds so much beef. And then you got Mark kind of sounding so unique and so interesting. And I mean, I don't really think I feel like age is starting to catch up with him vocal wise. And I'm not
really short.
I'm not hating. It's just that's just reality of doing vocals.
He hasn't got sustain in his voice anymore. Yeah, he hasn't got sustain. Yeah. So it's like really short and sounds almost, I don't know, with some parts I was just like, oh man, that's so bad. Like if you really hone into the vocals, it's just like, that is really bad, man. Like,
and then the main riff kind of, it feels like it again, I'm probably wrong on this, but it feels like someone sat in the studio with them and said, you know what's really popular amongst the kids today? This melodic death metal I hear so much about, you need to bring some of that into your riff style, because there's something that sounds very intentional to me in what they've done here, and it doesn't sound like it comes naturally to them.
Yeah, it's very, very different from the earlier days.
Yeah.
Also, like we had that, also I was a big fan of like Metal Church as well.
Yeah, fucking massively. Metal Church, Slaughter, Exciter. Tell you what legendary like blackened thrash band I've really been digging into recently. And it's just yet another great band to come from Australia, Atomizer. That The Only Weapon of Choice that came out in 2003. If you want to hear fucking thrash metal that sounds like man's thrash, that's an album to listen to.
That's the difference. You got thrash, you got your Havocs and your American thrash, but I think they've lost their touch of the recent 10, 15 years.
But dude, how cool even the song titles on Atomizer is so fucking brilliant. Sometimes They Hear the Bullet. It's fucking brilliant. When I die, I want to die violently. Power, not participation. Genius. But yeah, so strong recommendation if you want to check out a fucking proper thrash album, The Only Weapon of Choice by Atomizer. Genius. It's been slim picking so far this week. I've not heard a single thing that has particularly blown my mind.
To be honest, I think this year, as opposed to last year, it's been very, very a big drop of caliber releases
in the number of stuff coming out.
Yeah, 24 was just fucking, I couldn't even pick the boom month, because every month was a boom month.
Yeah. It is quieter. There's been a couple of weekends that's passed by now where there's not really been anything that I've been interested in listening to. But I will say that there are a couple of stuff that I would strongly recommend people check out. One of the Legion suggested I need to start doing an album of the month on the news rant. I'm happy to do it. I can tell you now, my album of April was Desert Psalms by a band called Serpents. They put it out on Norma Evangelium Diaboli. Fucking genius. Norma Evangelium Diaboli don't generally put out shit albums, but this record is a definite contender for one of the best of the year. If you like black metal, that is kind of the Funeral Mist. Trying to think who else I would compare them to. Funeral Mist, Horner, Darvaza, Mold. That's essential listening. Our friends at Gut Prince Cabal I've put out one of the best death metal albums of the year so far through a band called Anoxia. I played them at the beginning of this episode.
They're good guys too, yeah.
Revel in Sin. I mean, that's what fucking real brutal death metal with balls sounds like.
And live, man, they're just exactly the same. They can back it up.
Yeah, no, they as soon as I heard it, I was like, this is what fucking proper death metal sounds like. The new Svartsen is really good. The new Titan Blood is really, really good. New Abduction is great. Scour is fucking excellent. And then, as I said, we've got coming up albums that I know are going to be superb. Trivax, Tombs, Werewolves, Conspiracy X. So I think it'll pick up as the year progresses. But you are right. I mean, it's like last year, there wasn't a fucking weekend that went by where there wasn't at least 3 or 4 albums that
I didn't know where to fucking look.
Must listens.
I think I'm still in catch up from last year. Totally like.
Oh, dude, I constantly discover new stuff from like 2023, 2024. I'm like, how did I miss this?
Yeah. I didn't mind the new Nutford as well. I've been pumping that a little bit.
Yeah, very good. Very, very good stuff.
A little bit. It's good, but it has its moments where I get a bit bored of it. But that first track is just insane. That's fucking gold.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, let's hope Helheim can get us back on track. So, Norwegian Viking black metal veterans Helheim returned with their 12th studio album. Am I even going to bother attempting to pronounce this? Hrapnar Advesa. Again, probably destroy that, but it says on June the 20th, 2025, that comes out a groundbreaking release where the band creates a split album with themselves. Primary songwriters Vagender and Grimner have divided the creative process, each taking over full control for half the album, including vocals and musical direction. The result is 2 distinct yet unmistakably Helheim expressions, a bold evolution of the band's signature sound. That is quite an interesting thing to do, actually. But the proof will be in the pudding, as they say. So let's give this one a whirl. What do you think?
Cool vocals. I love the vocals. It's very emotive. And I was trying to play stuff like, man, it's fucking, I don't know where I've heard this style, but then I broke it down. Then I took away all the metal and the melody, the guitar. I was just like, I'm listening to The Cure.
What Cure song? Because it sounds super familiar to me as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to like really gather it. But if you took it, in a good way, like it's done very well. I'm just like, man, that the guitar, that's just that bridge there, like just I can't place it. But it's like, man, I've heard this before, but the way he was playing, it was like, yeah, he's a Cure fan for sure. But it's totally like it wasn't. because you said it was like, what they described as Norwegian Viking.
Viking black metal.
Yeah, that's far from Viking that I could think of, but it's each to their own. But it was cool though. It's cool.
I have to say, I like it. To me, this is the best thing we've heard so far on the news.
Yeah.
Rant,
It's very unique and it's got its own.
Yeah.
I've never heard nothing like it, so I rate it.
It's got kind of a laid back vibe to it, the riff, which for some reason it's I mean, normally I want chaos and violence, but it's quite endearing on this song. Like there's like it's almost like something. If a band, I'm trying to sort of piece together in my mind based on what you said about The Cure. I kind of hear The Cure melody meets AC/DC kind of, 4/4, just laid back riffing.
Yeah, man.
And then Norwegian black metal, because there's definitely a Norwegian, you can hear it's from Norway.
His vocals are fantastic. But this is what I thought about. I thought this is a Sunday afternoon, sitting in the back patio with your mates, having a few beers, and this is in the background. And just a cool, chill groove. Yeah, I like it.
These dudes have been around for a fucking long time, since the band started in 1992. So
I'll give it a go.
Yeah, no, I'm going
to make sure it's a Sunday and I'm having a few beers.
I'm definitely impressed. I like it. We will give Shadows Fall a skip, but as we search for the next song to listen to, what's happening with SIK?
So with all this, how many projects we got to, with the Braxis Horn, included in the entourage of the projects. It's just trying to
in the stable.
Yeah, in the stable. So I've just had to contain myself to some degree and start planning out a proper schedule for these projects, because they're all important to me, and I don't want to just release something because I've got 2 months or a 3-month block where I can try and cram it in and not really give it the attention that it needs. And SIK is, as you know, is the prime pinnacle of everything that I've done. It's the album that I've put the most work into, that represents myself, my influences from being from 15 onwards. So it deserves more attention. So that's definitely a 26. That is the plan. So for the rest of the year, it's going to be Conspiracy X, Spells of Torment, and Entropy. And then I think Brandon's going to be working on some Praxis Horn in the second half, I'd say, or the fourth quarter. See how it goes with that. And then it's going to be SIK for pretty much the whole of 26. It's going to be just the one album. So that's the mindset going forward.
You were right when you said that SIK is the pinnacle, because of everything you've released, Cast Below to Rise Above has also been the highest charting on the Into the Necrosphere albums of the year list. So
yeah, man, and
you got some work ahead of you to top that one.
Yeah, and it's good because now I'm not pressuring myself, because I pressure myself into trying to get one out this year, just to try. You sort of fall into that state of mind where I'm be expecting it. It's like no. Just let things happen when they do, because I get to a point where if after the Conspiracy X and Spells, I'll be like, it's, you don't want to say it, but you get metaled out.
Yeah.
You get all your artistic, visions depleted. Your creativity is at a low. So it's time to really have a different side, which is the Entropy, because that is another one of my, faves going back to my childhood is, British drum and bass and, all that kind of infusion. It's not really drum and bass, but it has that same, it's what I like about it. So it'll clear the palate before I take the next sip of whiskey.
Well, and the thing is, you have to be in the mood for it, because you can't. It's like trying to commit the act of love when you're not in the mood for it. You have to. The inspiration has to strike you, otherwise it's just going to sound forced and shit. But yeah, dude, I'm very excited about whatever you do.
And we'll have all the usual suspects on that album too, like Robin, Tim from the Amenta, Jason's going to be back on it as well.
Jason's been on a tear with Permafog. Matt sent me a clip the other night of a show that he was at. I think Bremlin was playing and Permafog were on the bill as well, and sent me a clip of them playing live. Yeah, man. Holy fuck, that band is good.
Oh, so good. And I was like, we just went to Tasmania just a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, it would be good if I could teed up a gig while, when he was playing. But I didn't get to catch up with Jace, but we're going back to Tassie in October. So I will be having a few beers with him once I go back down.
Yeah. All right.
Which will be good.
I almost got excited at the headline that we're about to read for a minute. It said Thorn revealed new song. For a split second there, I thought it was Thorns. Thorns have got new music in the works. When it's going to be released, I don't know. I can reveal that I may have heard something that's supposed to be on the new album. It was like 2 clips, short clips, and it was fucking brilliant. So, as I said, when they'll actually put out the album, God alone knows. But Thorn is yet another new Transcending Obscurity signing. Like I said, another week, another band gets signed to Transcending Obscurity as part of their upcoming full-length offering, Nebulous Womb of Eternity, which is due to land in stores on July the 25th. One-man death doom act Thorn premieres the second new single, Cortisorn Remains. I'll tell you something. Tell me what you think of this. I feel like it's becoming actively harmful to bands and this is going to be very scandalous, or not scandalous, controversial potentially. I'm just thinking out loud. It's becoming harmful to bands to sign to Transcending Obscurity Records, because I feel like this was a label that I used to really, really like. They put out really good stuff. They have overstocked that roster, and it's getting to a point now where there is just so much mid bullshit that has been signed and put out by Transcending Obscurity Records. I almost have to consciously sit here and stop myself from being prejudiced when I see yet another release. I
was thinking the same. I was about to say the same thing. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I'm definitely not going to make that phone call anymore.
No, like I actually, as I said, I mean, and I've spoken about it in the news rant. You know, people, they ever want to do like a super cut where they're like Jackie debates himself. This was a label I really liked, and I had a lot of time for, and just for whatever reason, it's like every fucking week there's at least 2 or 3 albums put out by this label. And most of what's come out, with exceptions, but most of what's come out has just been a load of mediocre shit.
I'd hate to, I'd hate to think that how these bands are getting on transcending is dollar value from the bands themselves to be on the label, which is a lot of, being approached with labels in the past, the cost that they've asked to pay to be on that label is like, it's a fair chunk. And if you're willing to pay, well, I mean, you can get on some of these labels, and if, money talks sometimes, and I think this is what's most likely to happen with with all this influx of these bands, is that they're willing just to pay the big dollars to be on the label, to say that they're on the label, and utilize that their stepping stone into something bigger. But fuck, man, like, you're really tarnishing your name when you can be assigning these mediocre to low subpar outfits.
And it's a shame, because it used to be a label that had really quality stuff. Veil Burner was one of the first ones that spring to mind. I mean, they also put out the Atrabilis demo. They put that out as a record. So they had form for putting out great stuff. But nowadays it's a roll of the dice. It's like I'd go as far as to say probably 1 in 10 bands.
Yeah, it's more of it's a business now. It's not a label; it's a business.
Yeah, and again, I mean, everyone needs to everyone needs to make a crust. I don't take that away from anybody, but at the same time, what I do think, just from a business perspective, it's like, dude, you have to protect your brand. Like, record labels, in my opinion, live and die off how much quality they're associated with.
Yeah, I'd love, man. If I like, that's the thing. You start off with such a good rep, and people are excited to check your shit out. And now it's the last 6 months. It's like you said, it's a week with this mediocre, and have some kind of balance. Like, have and literally say, like, these. You have a definition. Say, this is the up and comings, or this is what we're doing to support the underground. But here's our main focus. But we're giving these other younger bands a chance. But this is just promoted into, this is us, what we're about, and if you got the money, it's just
very cliched, but it's quality over quantity. I think of my favorite labels of the minute, Deborah Morty Productions, none of that shit. Again, most of what they put out, you at least know is going to be worth listening to. I might not like all of it, but I know it's at least going to be worth listening to. Norma Evangelium Diaboli, I would argue, is even closer to my tastes consistently. World Terror Committee, fucking phenomenal stuff. Those labels, I think, are very intentional with who they sign and who they put out. And I just don't feel like I feel like the old quality control at Transcending Obscurity Records needs some work.
Yeah, no, there's a business model, and then just attract and take, rape and pillage. Yeah.
All right, we're going to wrap up with Max Cavalera talking about metal being the most positive thing in the world. I thought, after we've spread so much mirth and hatred over the course of an hour, maybe it's time. Maybe it'd be nice to wrap it up on a positive note. I'm going to cue up the part of this interview where he talks about it, and then we'll see what we have to say about Mr. Cavalera's opinion.
Yeah, metal is the most positive thing in the world. But I know it's the negative image, but I understand. But once you are inside of the metal, it makes you a great person. It makes, I think, like, in metal, I hope at least there's less, racism, there's less sexism, there's less prejudice, and there's more, friendship, there's more bond. I think it's also because you're part of something outside of society. I think it's cool too. It's a unique thing. You're part of something that's special. You feel very very kind of like proud to be part of something unique like this. And I think it's cool like that. Like when you're in the airport and you see another guy with a heavy metal shirt, you go, "Oh fuck yeah, how you doing, man?" We have to do that. This our code.
And it's exactly what I have in mind.
All right, we're not going to listen to what that dude has to say, but I do like what Max has to say.
Totally true, man.
Yeah, 100%. I was having a conversation with my mom the other day, of all people, and I was saying, we were just talking about school friends and people that I've known over the course of my life, and I said to her, when I stop and think about it, the odd thing about my friendship circle now, I got homies that I've known for a long time, people that will always be friends, but those are literally 3 people that I, can think of as one in particular, as a guy I grew up with. Then I've got my friend Lo, who's been on the podcast before, my friend Andre, who now lives in Noosa. Those are like really, really close friends. Yeah. And sorry, my friend Alec as well. So 4 really close friends. I've been friends with them for decades. But then the vast majority of people that I speak to outside of that small circle, like that I would also regard as friends, they all come from doing the podcast. And they come from, you being a great example, Nathan, Austin, the Horsemen, all these guys. It's people, Cheyenne, people where there's just been a connection, because even though we're all very different people, there's shared values, and metal is the glue that brought us all together. So 100%. I get especially fucked off with, and this is why I've banged on about it for such a long time, I get especially fucked off with the infiltration of the scene by a bunch of tourist riffraff who will write garbage on their blogs like, metal has a Nazi problem and we need to do something about it. Everyone of all shapes and sizes and creeds and colors and sexual orientation has always been welcome in the scene. I have never, ever seen anyone look at somebody who's black and look at somebody who's gay, walk into a show and say, you don't belong in these parts. None of that shit. I've seen more of that at normal clubs and bars. So for me, this is something that's incredibly special, because my life has been defined by metal in many ways. And if somebody then comes in and tries to throw all sorts of shade at the scene and all sorts of shade at something that has been life-defining for me, of course I'm going to get defensive.
Yeah, and predominantly they're the tourists. I think, and I will say, when I talk to people I know, associates, I say most of my friends, they're not even in Australia. They're all overseas. That's the great thing about internet, people. It's through metal, but you find your people. We can find our people now, and you go to a show here. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter whether you're gay, trans. It doesn't even come into a thought. There's a band I listen to, and there's actual female bass player, but that's a trans person, and they are embraced with open arms from everyone. It's it doesn't matter. It really, and that really just proves the common values of metal and what we represent. It is a brotherhood, a sisterhood. It is your best friend. It is your people that you lean on, because you have found your people and you can relate to those people in any time, in any stage of your life. For some reason, it's just a collective of good people. Yeah, there's going to be some fuckwits, tourists, and want to have their say, and it's just naturally in their DNA to be a fuckwit, but and be opinionated and argue the point. That is, that's life in general. But and in the end of the day, you'll have someone behind you backing you up.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I also feel like I do subscribe to J-Dog's idea that there is a smaller percentage of people within the wider scene right now that are worth anything. But that, to me, that is the scene. That small, that nucleus, because they're the people that in 10 years' time, when every trend has changed or the wind has changed direction, they're going to be off doing something else. They're going to be the people that you might bump into in the street and go, hey, are you still listening to this band or that band? No, I've outgrown that now. I've grown up. Well, I probably was never going to be your friend to begin with.
I'll never get that, but yeah.
No. But the irony of what you said, mate, is that a lot of your friends are overseas. A lot of my friends are in Australia. So, which just necessitates once again that I do need to make plans to go and visit. We don't have anything set in stone yet, but I'm thinking 2027-ish. And we're going to go visit Andre
for you already, so.
in Noosa. We have to come and see you guys. Have to see Matt Wilcock. Have to see Sam Bean. I've never met Sam in person. I have to see Austin. Have to see Nathan. There's so many people that I need to.
Yeah, I think what we'll do is I think when this happens, we'll have like this mini fest.
That'd be
really. I think it will be. I think we will organize something like it's a mini fest, and it'll be in the middle, between Melbourne and Brisbane. I think we can meet in the middle somewhere or whatever. But it's definitely going to be an exciting time. It's going to be a lot of content for you, mate. I'll tell you that.
Bro, it will be fucking absolutely brilliant. But it is going to happen. In the next, 2027 is only 2 years away. It's less than 2 years away. So
just don't make it the same time that I go over there. We're planning to go through England up to Scotland, and then go across to Sweden, Norway. So, and definitely we're going to Shetland because I love that show.
Well, you keep me posted on when that happens, brother. Thank you very much for your time. Always great catching up with you.
Thank you very much, sir. Love your work and love everything you do, and big support always.
Cheers, brother. We're going to wrap up with an oldie but a goodie. In Hell I Burn for Satan by the Masters of Death Metal, Deicide, off the album Legion. Friends, as always, whatever it is that you're doing and wherever it is that you are, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you bad motherfuckers again next week.
The dreams of mentally torture, breaking the world of the dead.